We are stoked.
I'm a terrible sore loser. I don't follow the rules.
All the bearded guys seem to lie. Yeah.
There are rumors galore.
I am so up and down on my emotions right now.
Retain salad.
Okay. Where there is smoke, there is always fire, etc., etc., etc.
You don't do it.
Been there, done that.
And we'll get into it later.
They know crap about hockey.
Come on. Well, I laugh it off.
I have no issue.
Here's the thing, though. I have nothing to do.
I'm okay with this deal.
There was no other option.
So now you have nothing.
We already blew it.
Win now, win now.
It paid off.
I will eat my pants.
Hey guys, it's Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pavel and
I'm Evan Renner. It's good to be back for episode 10. Do you believe that, dude? We have hit episode 10 of season.
Pretty exciting and amazing.
Season 3. What? Amazing that I put up with you that long, or what?
Well, I have to put up with you in your face, so here we are.
Well, hey, man, really excited. We got a special roundtable with some returning superfan guests, great connections that have helped us build this show. I'm super pumped on this one here today. Just want to put a reminder out there for all of you that are out there. Next week, we have a very interesting guest, Jake Ellenbogen. He is a Los Angeles Ram NFL YouTuber, big-time YouTuber. He's also a writer for Game Day NFL and Game Day Hoops and a co-host of the Devil's iPod, but he's a super fan of the Las Vegas. Las Vegas, we call them the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't even know the names anymore. But Jake Ellenbogen is going to be joining us next week. So really excited about that. But I am more pumped for today's show, man. Why don't you kind of open us up where we're going here today?
That's right. We've brought some amazing super fans and super guests of the show, the real hockey insiders, as we like to call them. So move over Bob McKenzie, because we've got some new insiders. We got coming from BC, Brent. Brent, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me back on again. This is awesome. I'm stoked. This is going to be a great episode. Woo!
Woo! I love it.
Welcome. And things have been going well for you there in BC?
Oh, no. No. We got floods going on. We had fires all summer. Now we got floods.
That's terrible.
The highway between Vancouver and the rest of BC is literally closed. So, yeah. But you know what? Other than that, awesome.
Well, welcome back to the show. Then we've got Jake. Jake, how you doing?
Pretty solid. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it.
And what's been going on with you?
A little this, little that. Trying not to lament too much in the snow that has returned to Alberta, sadly enough. But trying not to let it get down too much. It just means it's really hockey season now.
Very true, very true. And then finally, we got the beautiful Aaron. Aaron, how you doing?
Good, but I was really surprised by beautiful. You shouldn't be lying to the listeners today. That's just not a polite host thing to do. But you know what? Otherwise, things are absolutely going fantastic. As you can probably tell if you've seen me on the show before, things look a little bit different behind me. We just had our first child a month and a half ago, so been super busy with that, but still trying to balance the job, trying to balance my own podcast at Inside Pints. It has been wild. Red Bull should be sponsoring me if I'm not already an automatic stockholder. Otherwise, you know what? It's great. I'm excited to be talking hockey again.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I do enjoy the mountain view, so you've got the best out of all of us, you know?
Who says there's no mountains in Edmonton? They're right here.
Well, we do notice that your podcasts have become from the kids' room. So, hey, great job, man.
It's fitting. It's about politics, right?
So it's kid-friendly, right?
Exactly.
No, I think he just wants to get his kid ready for NHL, man.
There you go.
So Evan, we've got some great questions coming up, but let's grab our bevies. And if you're out there, grab your bevies. We're gonna have a good, fantastic discussion of hockey. Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, boys.
So, we have you guys back because you know a lot about hockey. You love hockey, you watch hockey on top of any other sport that exists out there, but hockey's number one. And there's been a lot that has been happening in the last about month and a half of hockey being back. You know, we were worried about what could happen, what could be, but it's a full 82-game season. And, you know, the teams are at it already. There's definitely been some stories developing on and off the ice. But one of the questions that I wanted to ask you guys is what are one of the biggest stories that kind of surprised you and so far since the season has begun? Brett, I'll let you take it off first.
Well, you know what? Surprise is a weird word because there's a lot of things that are going on this season. Alex Ovechkin passed Brett Hall in goals, mind you. You know, he had 742. He passed Brett Hall. He's on the race to 894 to catch Gretzky. I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, it's not a surprise because we already knew it that was coming, but it's still pretty awesome that he did it. Wow. Right? Like, I think the guy is just he's a Russian machine. He's gonna do it. No guarantee. I almost guarantee he's gonna beat Wayne Gretzky's record of 894 and move on. But for me, I mean, as a Homer Oiler fan, obviously, McDavid and Draisaitl dominating the league, phenomenal. Ooh. I didn't expect it. I mean, I kind of hoped it happened, but I didn't expect it, and now it's happening, and it's crazy because one guy's hot, and maybe the next game the next guy's not hot, and it just goes back and forth. And right now, Draisaitl's leading the league in points. The biggest thing for me, though, as a surprise, okay, back in 2017, 2018.
We're going to overtime, I think, today.
I'm going to cut it short.
It's all good, man.
Coyotes were 0-10-1. New Jersey put a goaltender on waivers, and Arizona picked him up. They claimed Wedgwood. He wins the next game. Fast forward to 2021-22. New Jersey again puts the same goaltender on waivers. Arizona picks him up, and the guy friggin' wins his game. The very first game that he had. So that's a record that guy owns now that'll never be broken. It's nuts. I think it's crazy. It's mind-blowing. So to me, that's the biggest surprise because really right now, nothing is surprising me.
Wow.
Fair enough. Jake, what about you?
I lament to say this as obviously another diehard Oiler fan. One of my biggest surprises this year has been the Carolina Hurricanes' torrid start. Ooh. And specifically the left to die in the goalie graveyard that the Maple Leafs generally are was Freddie Anderson and his shockingly what is the word I want to say here? Revitalize is not the right word, but his Renaissance season for them right now. He's one of the league leaders he's a league leader in save percentage, league leader in goals against. Their team was talented, but I didn't expect that to come. I didn't think that Freddie it was one of those afterthought sort of free agency pickups, like signings. I'm like, okay, all right, Freddie Anderson, maybe he'll be okay. But that might have been the only piece they were missing. So the Oilers have started hot. The Hurricanes started hot. Maybe we could have a 2006 Stanley Cup final rematch. That's my biggest surprise.
Ooh. Excellent. Yeah, and especially since Carolina lost Dougie Hamilton, who was a big fish, and replaced them with Bear and D'Angelo. So, splitting up that workload. So, yeah, fascinating to see what happens with them and getting rid of Nedeljkovic to Detroit, who's played well. What about you, Aaron?
You know what? Now that I'm just trying to get over the 2006 heartbreak in my head again, probably the biggest surprise in terms of like the positive spin on things has been the kid out of Anaheim, Troy Terry. The kid's been in the league before. This isn't his rookie season by any stretch. I think he's played the most in like 48 games a season, something like that. but he's 15 games in already, and he's already tied his season high of points at 20. It is absolutely ridiculous the run this kid's on. He's got a long point streak. We're talking about what Connor's done. We're talking about what Dry's done. This guy is keeping pace in terms of how many games. He's just not getting the multiple points per game that we're seeing from the Oilers guys. So how long can he sustain it? I don't know. But you know what? I love seeing these guys kind of come out of nowhere, being able to light the lamp, because it shows that there is more parity and the skill in the league is increasing, and you don't have to be a first-line guy to get points.
Fair. Yeah, and the one thing I would add to that with Anaheim is just how competitive that team is, how they can score, and Getzlaf trying to go, if he hasn't already gotten 1,000 points. I think he was getting there at 999 the last time I checked. So, I mean, that man is a machine, and also rejuvenated his career because, you know, he was kind of winding down. Evan, what about you? Do you have any thoughts? Biggest surprise?
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to go with Aaron here. Definitely, you know, when we look at Anaheim and what they should be able to not do, the guy who is standing out right now is Troy Terry. And I'd like to just say that he actually was born the same year as Connor McFlippin McDavid, right? He's only 24 years old, but he has been in their system. He's played at a point a game down in their farm system with San Diego. And, you know, he is the true picture of what it means to develop and continue to develop and get better. So I think he's been the big surprise. I will say that a little bit of a surprise, I have come out at the beginning of the year, as everyone knows, and I bragged about it, that I'm predicting three-time, woo, Tampa to be the Stanley Cup champs this year. But I'm a little worried when I saw them start off the way that they have. They've lost a lot. And so I think that they're going to be there, but I don't feel as confident in my prediction, but I'm going to stick with it because that's what I said. What about you, Bud? What's your take on your surprises or interesting storylines?
You know, one of the big ones, I think, is just how certain teams would start and play out with the rosters that they have. And so for teams like Detroit and Yzerman's plan, like the way Detroit is playing is so good and so much fun to watch. And watching Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider play the way they play. I mean, I know Lucas went 4th overall, but like he's playing as if he was a number 1 like defenseman. Like the guy is insane. And even Moritz Seider putting up the points that he is, you know, so Detroit playing how they are, I think they're 8-6-2 or something. Like they're in the top, you know, they're in a playoff spot right now, you know, so will that change? I mean, you know, they're facing Columbus. They have a few other teams on the go, but yeah. I like what Buffalo's done. And now with the Eichel saga done, you know, we're going to look forward to what Buffalo will do and can do and who the next superstar will be there. So yeah, it's definitely interesting, but you know, to take it to a different level, Brett, what do you think are some of the biggest disappointments so far in the NHL that you've kind of noticed in the first month and a half?
You know what? Colorado being as bad as they are, it's surprising and disappointing at the same time. Yeah, I'm really shocked, actually, to be honest with you, about how what's the word we can use on this crappy. You're right. They're bad. They're bad. Yeah. But, you know, I didn't expect it. I thought they would have been around the top, and they're floating pretty low. You know what, Montreal. I mean, I kind of knew Montreal was going to be bad with Price going to rehab and right, and so I just kind of, I don't know. I expected more out of Montreal, and I expected more out of Colorado, and they're just not that good. So it's to me, as a casual fan that really focuses on one team, looking around the league, those are two teams that I would expect to be in that upper echelon, and they're just not. So it's kind of sad to see.
It's interesting too because they've got quite a few injuries, and I know that there was some COVID protocols that they dealt with, so that was kind of a big factor. So, you know, they need to face that adversity. Otherwise, it's going to be tough. And I wonder if Jared Bednar will be on the hot seat by Christmas if things don't turn around. What about you, Jake?
We got a couple. I tried to narrow it down. I'm going to go 3-2-1 essentially. The third on the list is the COVID-19 cases, Ottawa Senators and San Jose Sharks. I'm only saying disappointed because I guess that's just what I feel to see that that the cases are still popping through the NHL locker rooms, despite all of the NHLPA COVID protocols. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to delve into why they're happening, et cetera. But I guess I'm just disappointed that the fans are back, et cetera, but somehow we still have it making its way into the locker rooms for whatever reasons those are. The second one is shockingly not really disappointing in a way, but Buffalo being better without Eichel. So selfishly, I want Buffalo, and I've said this in the podcast before, I want Buffalo to be bad so that they break the decade of darkness tie they have with the Oilers for most consecutive years missing the playoffs. And when they started 5-1 or 6-1, whatever it was, I'm disappointed that they aren't as bad as advertised. They're not Arizona bad. So somehow I'm disappointed that they're better without Eichel is my second disappointment. And my first one is a doozy, and you had shared a nice piece on it with the interview, etc. But the biggest disappointment, and it's gonna last over the entire season and onwards, is how poorly the Blackhawks handled the Kyle Beach situation.
Granted,
100%.
There's no need to even delve any further into that either. Everybody knows that, but I think even further into it is Coach Quenneville and how obvious it was that he put the team chemistry ahead of another player's personal well-being, and that'll be my biggest disappointment for not just the first month, but like I said, the whole season. So.
Yep. We're with you there. It's definitely disheartening to know what was going on and continually what's evolving from that story onward with John Doe too. Aaron, what about yourself?
I mean, absolutely I echo what Jake said. He's hit the nail on the head with the Kyle Beach situation, but he said it already really well. So what I will do is I will actually do what we call in the podcast industry callback to something that you had said, Pavel. I want to go to actually the New York Rangers, because the one thing I've been really disappointed in is Capo Caco and Alexis Lafreniere, because you have these two players who were super high draft picks that were projected to be franchise changers on their own, and you have both of them in there. And it's not that the Rangers are playing bad. The Rangers have been absolutely excellent. They've won a lot of games. They're staying in it with the team that they have. But you have the players that are supposed to be the faces of your franchise and that you've moved people around to keep, and they have less points than the Yzerman picks in Detroit. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's a case of the yips or something like that, but I'm absolutely stunned that they are not producing. I like them both as players. They're excellent hockey players. They've got great sense. They've got incredible shots, but it's just not working for whatever reason.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they brought in the new coach from Vegas, former Vegas. What's his name? It's escaping me. Gerard Gallant.
Yeah.
And you think that he would let him kind of go running wild and have some, fresh view on the ice. Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see, especially since they signed a lot of the big guys. The one thing I like about New York is their goaltending has been unreal. Whether it's Georgiev or Shesterkin, I think they're playing out of their minds. Their blue line needs a little bit of work. Evan, what about you?
Man, Aaron just keeps stealing my thunder with some of this stuff. So it's just like, hello, Mr. Two Guy. Okay. It's like, man, I started this thing. And Aaron's going to end it. Okay, so for me, I'm going to agree. I am actually extremely disappointed in what I'm seeing in the production. Now I'm going to say production because I'm hearing the overall game is coming along quite well for Lafreniere. But I got to tell people right now, he's on pace to follow in the footsteps of Nail Yakupov, if you want to call it more in Russian. So you know, people got to be careful when just because someone's a number. And I actually thought this guy was just a step below, like he'd be like a Jack Eichel at least coming in. And we're not seeing that. I mean, he's looking more like Nolan Patrick, who I'm still also worried about. I'm really concerned about some of the development of some of these guys out there. Cody Glass, who was in that trade. And so I guess my disappointment is I don't know what the reasons are, if it's on the player, on the team. We hear all these different things. But anyway, that's really where I'm going. What's your big disappointment there? Or did Aaron steal your thunder too?
Oh, no, I'm going to go completely off the board, and that's why I put these guys up. It's the Vancouver Canucks because I had my brother-in-law over the past weekend, and we chatted a little bit about the team because he's a big fan, been on the show. But I don't know what the Vancouver Canucks are. Hughes and Pettersson held off and got paid like they wanted to, you know, even though it was partial for Pettersson for a 3-year. But they haven't really been producing like they should be. And I don't know what that team is. And even though Demko's making the odd beautiful Belfour save, Belfour light, you know, that team is, they don't have an identity. And I find that they're what Calgary was a little bit before they got rid of, Jeff Ward, and even before the coach change with Bill Peters for those reasons. So I don't know what the Vancouver Canucks are. You know, Francis Aquilini was on their road trip, but they lost. They gave up 19 goals in 3 games. You can't do that. So, you know, and their penalty kill is atrocious. You know, it keeps getting worse. So what are the Vancouver Canucks? And I hope they turn it around. But, you know, the Pacific is much harder than I thought it would be, than people predicted. And I don't think the California teams are to be taken lightly.
Hey, I just think that their name Canucks is, you know what goes with Canucks and always has, crazy. And the team is playing crazy. And the problem is Pettersson. I mean, I could go on and on. I could ride on your coattail now. I mean, Pettersson it's to me the problem. When you're a superstar, they are so lucky they didn't find a way to put him to an 8-year contract right now. He needs to earn this thing, man. Okay, well, Pavel, I'm going to steal the next little thunder here for a question because this is very close and dear to my heart. Everybody was picking the Seattle Kraken to make the playoffs. I haven't said that. I posted it up on our site, on our Facebook page. And by the way, make sure you follow us. Catch us on Facebook and follow us with all our action. We got different stuff happening with mini leagues around. But Seattle, they're not coming out well. Interesting enough, they've taken guys. They wanted to be defensive, and defensive means they got Jamie Oleksiak, they got Adam Larson, because they want to be defensive. But I want people to understand in the NHL, you got to be careful with stay-at-home defensemen because they might be tough, they might move them from the net, but they don't get the puck out of the zone. That's one of the issues that you run into with some defensemen who are good shot blockers only because they let people get past that blue line. And when you get inside, you run with it. So, guys, Brent, why don't we start with you? What are your thoughts on the Seattle Kraken as an expansion team? Maybe your thoughts on the arena, how their defense, maybe where they're scoring, their coaching. What's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I had huge hopes for these guys. I mean, based on the model that Vegas did, I had massive hopes for the Kraken. They're not that good. They're actually pretty horrible. And you know what? They did the draft. I mean, to be fair, when they did the draft, I was like, all right, they got the goaltending. They got some pretty solid defense. Everly as your best friggin' forward, you got kidding me. Like, at that, he's just not that good. I mean, he was good. He was one of my favorite players as an Oiler. But beyond that, now fast forward to today, they're just not that good. They got no scoring. And which kind of blows me away is like they only had, the last time I looked, to be fair, they only had one player that was at +1.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody else, they've been getting smoked at 5-on-5. Right. I mean, take away the power play and the penalty kill. They're getting smoked. Like on and I did not expect that. Like I said, with Grubauer as their goaltender, right? You mentioned Oleksiak and Larson on defense. Like they sounded like it was gonna be 2-1 games. And you know what? It's just not ending up to be that way. And it's kind of sad. Yeah, they're not as good as I figured they would be. And in fact, that should have been one of my disappointments. Was it? Yeah, it's not as good as I thought they were going to be, because we had the big hope of Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Showing us what they can do.
Wow. Well, Jake, what do you think, man?
Okay, so I was also not on board with any of the pre-draft hype, pre-expansion draft hype that the Kraken were going to be a playoff team. The Vegas Golden Knights, sorry, there's no loss in there. The Vegas Golden Knights kind of ruined it for expansion teams. Ron Francis overthought the entire draft process and prioritized having cap space. Now, do you know what? This may work out, and they may surprise us and shock us by being able to take advantage of cap-strapped teams against the cap ceiling there by the trade deadline, which may still be the plan. But as it stands right now, in the first 15 games, you've won 4 of them. You're on pace for a 21-win season.
Yeah.
You're on pace for probably 55 points. You're going to be in the lottery at this juncture. You have a rabid hockey market in Seattle that was waiting for a franchise for a while. Yeah. I would argue that perhaps they're playing the patience route, that because they have slightly more knowledgeable hockey fans in that area than you did Vegas, that they don't need to come out as guns a-blazing. It does seem disappointing because we did get treated to how well Vegas came out of the gates, went to the Stanley Cup final, and Vegas has been a perennially great team their entire existence. But the problem with Seattle is by doing it this way with no scoring, you left Tarasenko on the table because you didn't want to pay his contract and deal his injuries. You left Carey Price. Carey Price was available to you, yes, at $10 million a season or $10.5 million a season, whatever his contract is. You could have crippled Montreal. And yes, you would have had an albatross contract, but you would have had an instant Marc-Andre Fleury type player that every new Kraken fan could have instantly slapped on the back of their jersey. And instead, you're like, okay, do we pick Jordan Eberle, who I love, Ebbs, but do you pick Jordan Eberle as your best player? Or, I mean, like Jaden Schwartz and Alex Wenberg? Like, those are your best players right now. Those aren't players that you're going out and being like, hey, spend $200 on my jersey and put the name on the back. So, love the arena. Love that they kept the old Key Arena roof. I love the historic nature of that.
Yes.
Did a bang up job with the arena. I think it looks great. I think you're gonna be asking your fans in that area for patience, and we'll see what they do at the trade deadline and next summer, because I think next summer is where they make some noise with some teams that are strapped, like Tampa Bay again, etc. So
Toronto. Yeah.
Top heavy teams like Toronto.
All right, Aaron, man, we might be stealing a bunch of your thoughts here, but what can you give us?
I was going to say, I know exactly how you feel now, because Jake took absolutely everything I was going to say, right? I was even like, okay, my backup is going to be the arena. Okay, he talked about the arena. Crap. Okay, but I do have something. So maybe what I'll do, instead of talking about what Seattle's done, I'll kind of look at maybe trying to find a positive spin, even though I agree 100% with Jake fully. I'm just going to try to play devil's advocate here. What I could see happening with the cap space, and I agree that they needed to do a better job of capitalizing on it then, we could be looking at that as a summertime deal. Because what's going to happen in the summer, you're going to have a lot of teams, like we just kind of alluded to, that are going to be cash strapped, that are going to be pushing the cap, and are going to be trying to find space, and they can try and take advantage of that. The only issue is that what does Seattle have in terms of a farm system? They don't really have much yet. So we saw what happened with Vegas. They used their farm system because of the plethora of draft picks they were able to acquire in advance of the draft to be able to develop a system and have prospects that they're willing to move. Unfortunately, that didn't work in Game 6 of the conference finals against the Canadiens. So we'll just leave it at that. But what I think Seattle can do if they want to be successful, because, I mean, right now, as far as expectations go, they are meeting them. They are doing exactly what an expansion franchise is supposed to do, not what these guys did, which was the exception to the rule. If they want to be successful this summer, they need to be ruthless. He needs to be going to every single GM saying, hey, you've got $2 million left on the cap. I am willing to take your cap problem. You got to give me this, and I will send you this in return, because that is the way you are going to help your base, and you're going to give me players that can help us now. So they need to do what Vegas did just a year after the fact, because everybody saw the game plan ahead of time. This is what's going to happen leading up to the draft. The draft is over. Time to play ball.
Interesting. Not too bad. You rebounded pretty quick there on that one. Good job.
Before we move on, I have one more point. Actually, I forgot to say that was cool about Seattle before we leave them behind. In their first sellout home game, they actually retired number 32, and it was representative of the 32,000 fans that actually placed a deposit on season tickets on the first available day. I thought that was a really cool gesture from the franchise to the fan.
If you're a Nashville fan, sure.
I found it kind of lame, but because it's 32,000, not 32, but they're the 32nd NHL franchise, so I get it.
Oh, that's
well,
sorry.
Pavel, man, is there anything left to talk about Seattle?
Just a little bit. So I'm going to disagree with Brett, because what it came down to, but before I say, the one positive I have about Seattle is I really love their away jerseys, so much so I ordered one, right? So I do like it, and I did order Adam Larson, as I'm a fan. The one thing I will say about Seattle, watching some of their games, and like the fans are fantastic. I love seeing them in the stands. The Climate Pledge Arena looks great. Is that they started on the road, which was very difficult. It was a few more games before they got to play it. Now, they are putting up points. You may not have a ton of scoring like a plethora, but it's their goaltending that has sucked. If you look at the goaltending numbers for Drieger, who was injured for a while, and Grubauer has struggled. He's under 900. I think last he was like 888. You can't have that for an elite level goaltender, which begs the question, is Colorado a better defensive team than Seattle? Probably, but look at how they're struggling right now too, as Brett mentioned earlier. And a lot of their players, their forwards, are putting up points, whether it's Jaden Schwartz, some of their other guys, Eberle, like we mentioned. You don't have a lot of them putting up plus minus, which you can take it or leave it, but almost all their players are minus. Do you really want that kind of defensive game? Is that the kind of defensive game that David Hackstall teaches? Is he a good enough coach to make this team elite? That is the question that I have for them. So I think we were worried about their forwards. I think it's more about their defensive game and about their goaltending. And if they don't figure that out, they're not going to go anywhere, especially since they signed into a big deal. But that's my thoughts on the Kraken.
That's a good point. I like to come back to Grubauer here. Grubauer fit well in Colorado. He took the opportunity to be the face of the franchise, whatever you want to call it. But I think it is important that fans do get that it's not that simple, because it's like they just couldn't put another goalie in place in Colorado. They're struggling. And so it's a little bit of chemistry and the right fit. And sometimes it's not just about skill, it's the way each other plays and fits in those puzzles with it. So I just want to kind of bring something to the knowledgeability of the Seattle fans. If you're a Seattle fan, so first of all, go ahead. You can start writing in the comments and kind of ripping me apart. And for knowledgeability between Vegas fans and for Seattle fans, I see the guys keep pointing down. It's like, yeah, let him give it to him. Okay, I am in groups specifically with the Seattle Kraken and with fans, and I am helping educate them. They are not as educated fans, the general fans, but just, I don't know if you guys knew this, the opening game, they averaged $600 a ticket. $600 a ticket, sold out arena. The fans are passionate. American, yes. Passionate. Right now, like their cheap seats are, I think, around 100. Maybe it could be 80. One guy was saying, but that's the cheapest, man. They're like Canadian. It's like the Maple Leafs or the MSG going to see the Rangers, or as far as cost. Like they're asking questions about blue lines. But this is what I love. They're asking questions, man. And they're just loving it. And by the way, the thing about Vegas is there's 100,000 Canadians in Vegas every day. Well, pre COVID. You know, and you got to remember, a lot of those fans are like, they've flown south and they picked it up. And Vegas has had AHL and IHL hockey for many, many years. So there was a lot of knowledgeable fans. But anyway, having said that, the one thing I'm excited about with Seattle is you're talking about their farm team. I'm not going to get into some of the stuff you guys mentioned, but the cool thing is with their farm team, I'm excited because I head down to California usually in October every year, and I'm going to get to see AHL because they bought their own, the Coachella Valley Firebirds out of Palm Springs. They're building the arena right now. They've already got the team named. They've got everything set up. And so they will be entering the American Hockey League in the Pacific next year. So that should be pretty exciting. But why don't you lead us?
Their logo. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen their logo.
Well, lead us into the next question. We only got a couple questions. We'll have to drop one so we can add our final take.
That's fair. So the last one is, we've been watching some of these players play, and I'm wondering from all of you, who do you think has an outside shot to making Team Canada who we wouldn't expect? We already did our list. You've all seen them. There's an episode you can watch. But who do you think that's kind of really impressed on any team that can really play? Brent, you go first.
Well, I mean, the homer in me, I'd take Newt and I'd take Hyman and play them with McDavid. Remember years back, there was the San Jose Sharks line, right, with Marlowe and Thornton and who was the other one? The San Jose
Couture.
Yeah, and so I just think that going into this year's Olympics, if you got McDavid, which he's obviously on the team, you're going to be looking at Hyman, possibly Nugent Hopkins. As a non-homer feel, though, I think Andrew Magnapani from the Calgary Flames, he's got a pretty good chance at making a legit case to be on that team. He's rocking it right now. I mean, as much as I hate to say that about the Flames, but he is rocking it. So I legit player. He is straight up a legit player. So I could definitely see him getting looked at Team Canada.
100%, yeah, and it reminds me a little bit like a Hyman Armangiapane, like a Chris Kunitz was with Sidney Crosby. He wasn't really exactly a superstar, but he performed well in Pittsburgh, and I mean they won back-to-back cups, so he was happy. Jake, what about you?
I'm going to go way out the deep end here, and I'm going to throw a bit of a dark horse out there. I actually don't think that he's going to make the team, but he arguably should be in the and he's not going to probably make the team due to the depth of talent that Team Canada would normally be able to draw from. But I'm going to throw out a name that is a center, which already makes his road much more difficult to go. But his name is Jordan Kyrou, and he plays for the Blues. He's producing at more than a point a game clip right now, and he's only 23. If we want to really move in the speed, the fast, the youth game, and the next generation, this is one way to do it. So, I just wanted to throw a dart throw out there for you.
100%. I've loved Jordan Kyrou since he joined the league. He's been phenomenal for the Blues. I think he's a very underrated player. Well said. Yeah. Aaron?
I love the Kyrou pick, actually. I mean, I loved watching him in the World Juniors. He's got that international experience. So, you know what? He might not make it, but Canada's basically a team built to centers anyways. If you have too many centers, just throw them on the wing. I'm sure one year we'll see all centers on defense as well, because why not? The selfish internal guy in me would love to say Tyson Barrie, just because self-plug here. I sort of helped give the inspiration for the Tyson Barrie goal song on TSN 1260. You can ask Dusty Nielsen about that. Woo! So I'm going to throw that out there. Dusty, please have my back on that. But I think realistically, it's hard to go against Andrew Mangiapane. The man you look at what he did in the World Championships this year, and he almost single-handedly helped this Canadian team come from almost not even making the medal round to winning a gold medal at the end of the day. And the larger part of that was having the team on his back. So I even though he's a Flamer, I would have absolutely no problem there, because I'd love to see him in Edmonton. Hyman's, again, the same way, because looking at the Kunitz argument, you could very well say, well, why not throw him with McDavid? I mean, you could have McDavid, but at the same time, you look at McDavid, why wouldn't you throw McKinnon and Huberdeau on his wings? Like, that is the line to beat all lines. So it's hard to make that argument for Hyman. So in that case, I think I'm going to stick with Mangiapane.
Well said. Evan?
Oh, okay. Well, everyone's just taken everybody that I can think of. So, Mangiapane is going to be the best chance outside of what was already decided in there. So, you know what? I'm going to switch things around, not even speak on Team Canada, because we know some of you guys are coming from other countries. I want to talk about Russia. And someone who the Seattle Kraken could not even take a swing at, who everyone thought he's not worth bringing to your team, he's injured, and that's Tarasenko. And I actually am excited. Now, he's not a lot of a dark horse other than people acted like he wasn't going to be able to come back. And the guy is still the Tarasenko he was before. It's just that he's working within a system So I'm actually excited to see him come back. But when it comes to Team Canada, I actually don't think there's going to be any dark horses. I don't think, and if there is, it's going to be on defense, not in the forward group. What are you thinking, man?
So I like you guys mentioned the two players, Mangiapane and Hyman, who I consider, making it. I think even Barzal has a chance to making it. I think he's making a case right now for being even our top or fourth line center or winger, right? I think that's how good he can play. Of course, we're so depth down the middle. The kind of one proposal that I think I would make would be that's bold, would be that Binnington is our starter goalie instead of Price. I think just the way Binnington has played, and with everything going on with Price and whether or not he can get healthy and play up to the standard, by February. But I think with all the goaltenders that we have, which we could say is Canada's most weakness out of all the other countries, I think Binnington had the chance to prove himself again, like he did when they won the Cup in 2018. And I think he has a chance to being the starter for Canada with whoever else backing him up.
Wow. So do you think maybe you've talked about Carter Hart? He's playing well this year. Could Hart and Binnington?
I could see Hart being the third line. I think it'll be a competition between him and Blackwood. Again, Blackwood got his first vaccine. I don't know if he'll get his second one and when. And I know that was kind of a deterrent because you need to be vaccinated. Just because, again, Jake mentioned it earlier with Ottawa. The players need to be vaccinated to go for that tournament. So, but I think Carter Hart will compete for the backup with Blackwood or maybe somebody else that I can't think of. But I think Binnington, it's his job to lose right now.
Wow. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to be excited because we're going to take a whole show for you guys down the road talking on the Olympics. We might even need a couple weeks, man, to get through the load. This is going to be one of the greatest Olympics ever. The talent is better than ever. Talking about talent, we're going to skip one of our questions that we talked about just so we can take some time. And we're going to give you up to 2 minutes, guys, if you need it, even though you're taking 2 minutes anyway. Okay. Is the Edmonton Oilers team we see today, is this a team that is for real or is it a mirage? Is it, and if so, give us your suggestions why or why not. So let's start with you, Brett. What are you thinking, man?
It's 100% for real. The power play alone, it's crazy. Like they're what are they just under 50% right now?
Yeah, 46.1, I think last.
For every second power play, you're guaranteed a goal. Not digging the really high scoring games. They kind of worry me a bit when you got to win 6-5 or 6-4 or 5-4, or, even 4-3. I don't dig it. There's a lot of work. As great as Koskinen has looked right now, I don't believe that's the guy that's going to get us to the promised land. There's a lot of work to be done, but the pieces that are finally there, and we're looking like a team that's actually a force rather than a team that scrapes in, gets by just enough, maybe get a playoff round or two. I honestly think that this current Edmonton Oilers, even as is, will get to the third round.
Cool. Okay. Well, Jake, do you got the same take or you got a different take on this one?
I'm going to give same take. I'm going to give some slightly differing reasons as to why. Unlike Brent, I actually love these 80s throwback stick spot. Give me run and gun hockey, because once we get Mike Smith back up and running, we're not going to be letting in 4 goals a night. So if we can get keep scoring at 5 goals a game for 10 of the first 14 like we've done so far, I'm pretty confident in what we're going to have the rest of the season. Draisaitl's been unbelievable. Sorry, I just got photobombed there.
It's called podcast, Bob. You've had a few roommates going through tonight, so just so everyone knows,
I've had too many beers. I'm seeing people behind Jake.
So just so everyone knows, on Two Guys in Hockey Talk, this is where you come to get photobombed. Okay, Jake, wrap up if you remember.
The last thing I was just going to say is when you look at what the reason why it's not a mirage is you have McDavid and Draisaitl pushing each other, because now what you have is no longer just the league's best player. You have the league's second best player, and the gap between 2 and 3 is no longer even close. We have the 2 best players in the league, and they just keep pushing each other. If they don't get 2 points a game, we're like, wait, what happened? They're now 3 points a game is no longer even surprising. So the clip they're putting up, I don't. It doesn't bother me if we let in 3 goals a game. If we're scoring 5. Let's throw it back and let's light that lamp. Let's go.
All right. Well, that's a take. You guys heard it right from Jake. All right.
And Jake also mentioned before the show that in Edmonton there's this restaurant, Japanese Village, and they light it up every time Oilers score 5 or more goals. But he's pretty sure they're going to go bankrupt because Edmonton keeps scoring 5 or more goals every time.
Okay, I like just to put it now, Japanese Village is not a company that sponsors us. Maybe we should look into this. Okay. Well, Aaron,
We're open.
I'm wondering what you got, man. Give me something.
I hate to do this. I'm going on a
There you
rant.
go.
No, this is a mirage. Let me preface this by saying it is not the Oilers' fault. I think we've got a very solid offensive group with the best depth we've seen in ages. Our defensive core is doing a pretty solid job. They've had a few flubs, but it's going to happen. Koskinen's been playing way better than we're used to seeing from him, and we can imagine that when Mike Smith comes back, he's going to be great. Regular season doesn't matter anymore. It is the playoff success that we need, and until these refs get their heads out of their ass, we are not going to see an Edmonton Oiler Stanley Cup win. The biggest part of the Edmonton Oilers success, even though we are starting to see more 5-on-5 success, which is a huge part of what we need, the problem is we are not getting the calls. Watching that St. Louis game the other night, a guy broke his stick in between McDavid's legs. 0 call. Yeah. If this is what we're going to see in the regular season, we know there's going to be even less called in the playoffs. Edmonton's success is going to be based on how many penalties we are able to draw. If these refs are going to decide to put the rule book away and not give us the opportunities that, frankly, they should have, not even just being a homer, objectively, there are rules that are not being called. Until that happens, the Oilers will not win the Stanley Cup. And that makes me hurt to say. So NHL, figure it out. Every other league is supporting their stars, making sure they're having success. You need to do the same for yours.
And you guys heard it. Let's mic drop, man. Oh, man. Pavel, man, we don't talk about this very much, because we talk about a lot of other topics, but this is a sensitive topic.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So what are your thoughts, Evan?
Oh, I like how you throw it back my way. Okay, I'm just going to say it. It's not a mirage, but I don't see them getting out of the second round, and I'm going to call it like I've called it before. We got a round table. It's just not you and me, Pavel, but I've said it, and I'm going to say it again. NHL playoff hockey is a totally different hockey than the regular season. They play to the goons. They play to the cross check. That's why there's not much called for penalties, so people do what they want. And Tampa was one of the few teams, which is why I still pick Tampa for the Stanley Cup, because they got the best all-round team to do well in the regular season, but excel at playoff because they still can do some of the same stuff. We are witnessing. I was around during the Wayne Gretzky era. I was at the end of the Bobby Orr. I was during the entire Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr. Right now, we are witnessing one of the greatest, if not now two guys of the greatest superstars. And no one called Leon Draisaitl the Deutschland Dangler. We said this last week. He is far ahead, and I'm saying far ahead. Anyone who's more than a point ahead of McDavid with the way he's playing, Leon is not changing, and he's setting his pace for a 187-point season is what he's looking towards. And just to watch the team is exciting. Pavel and I, we're in our meeting before he was moving on. He's got some new work and stuff, and he's abandoned me, but not for two guys. So that's a good news. But one of our ladies was talking, and they're saying, listen, I don't even watch hockey, but did you see Connor McDavid go through the entire New York Rangers lineup? It's just like Leon, he just with ease, 3 points, 2 points. I mean, if I'm McDavid, I'm getting jealous, you know. I see Leon Draisaitl coming out of the season. Their team is bad. They're going to outscore themselves this year, I think. But Pavel, I know that D, you said it early. You're worried about the big tough D like Adam Larson and stuff being gone. They are hurting. I like Cece. He's played well. Barry's kind of picked it up a bit, but I'll be honest with you. I'm worried about the Slater Cuckoo and the Chris Russell pairing. That's they need a replacement on that bottom area, and that could play up on the second when they need them in the playoffs. Anyway, second round, and they'll be out in 6.
Wow.
Oh,
I mean, I'm always going to be a homer, and I think they should go far. Until they win a round, nothing is going to be proven otherwise. You guys all kind of alluded to that. The two things that I think we need to focus on this year, and it's very important, is coaching, because it's Tippett's last year, and Tippett has been out-coached in the playoffs. And I wonder where that defense-first coaching mentality is, given what we're seeing, because you're not getting a lot of defensive plays, and it's not on Koskinen or Smith or Stuart Skinner, who has played very well. You know, it is on your defense pairing to play better. And Keith should know better. CC should know better. Nurse and Bouchard should know better. And I know Bouchard's young, but he's making a lot of rookie mistakes. And say what you want about the third line, that third pairing can be anybody. What I also think is very important is what is your third and fourth line doing and producing? Because McDavid and Draisaitl may not always be able to score or produce. What is that third line doing? Now, has it been good and solid? It's been all right. You've got Warren Fogle, Brendan Perlini in the mix, Colton Sevier, Ryan McLeod has been there a few times, unless he's on the fourth line. Zach Cassin's been injured, so, he hasn't really made an impact. What is that third line? Tampa Bay lost their third line, and it was a big loss this offseason. Yeah. What is Edmonton's third line? Because that will determine what happens. And when they've played, I think it was versus Calgary, they performed and they were great. Him, Warren Fogle, and I forget who played in the middle for them, but you guys can remind me. But again, if that doesn't fix, then no, it's. But here's my bold prediction: they go to the playoffs, and Clefbaum returns and plays. He does the Kucherov.
Wow, that did.
He still can come back.
He
16 games.
I actually want to go back to something you said, Pavel. I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but you got my brain turning. When was the last time we had an Edmonton Oilers coach fill their contract?
Ooh.
I don't know.
We are about to witness it.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. No, I think Tippett is coaching to what really he feels is going to help them win. That's how he's coaching. And he always said he was more offensive than defensive. He always works with what he's got. But Well, guys, we are running overtime. We always joke it should have been 2 guys in overtime. Just went, Brent, thanks for joining us again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Jake,
Always a pleasure.
Aaron,
Always happy to be here. Keep working on that beard.
and Pavel.
It's been an honor, Evan. You know, actually, it was an honor with the other 3. You're just background noise.
Well, it never really matters what Pavel says because he knows absolutely nothing about hockey. On behalf of 2 Guys and Hockey Talk, I want to thank our guests for being here today. And in the meantime, and in between time, Pavel.
Keep your stick on the ice. Take it easy.
Finds Brodzinski. One-timer right on by Gettinger. Rebound, Greco. Jamming away. They score. No, it's waved off. The red light went on. The horn sounded.